Orion's cradle was built around a dead star, an enormous ring of metal and light floating in endless black. Inside, the Galactic Assembly met like it always did. Hundreds of species, thousands of voices, and one quiet truth everyone pretended not to see. Some were born to be listened to. Others were expected to stay small. High above the main floor, the oldest powers sat on shining platforms that hovered like thrones. The Aori elders, thin, glowing, impossibly calm, looked down the way mountains look down on dust. Their history stretched back longer than most civilizations had names. And at the very bottom, where the air felt colder and the lights felt dimmer, sat the humans. Ambassador Mara Voss stood on humanity's platform with her hands clasped behind her back. She wasn't young anymore. Gray threaded her hair. Tired lines lived around her eyes. 11 years on this council had carved patience into her bones and something sharper into her heart. 11 years of being heard later. 11 years of polite smiles while others laughed quietly. Today, Mara didn't smile. A new resolution was being read aloud. Counselor Dreven of the Valkyrie hegemony spoke in a voice like stone grinding against stone. He talked about guidance. He talked about safety. He talked about protecting the galaxy from reckless young species. He never said the word human. He didn't need to. The doctrine would limit junior civilizations to 2 star systems. It would ban them from advanced military development. It would restrict artificial intelligence research. It would place helpful oversight in the hands of older species. And by a coincidence so perfect it felt insulting, only one species met the carefully written definition of junior: humanity. Mara pressed the button on her podium to request the floor. A small light blinked. High Speaker Yelthar, ancient ruler of procedure, glanced down once, then looked away as if the light had annoyed him. Dreven continued. Mara pressed it again. The light blinked brighter. Again, Yelthar ignored her. Mara pressed it a 3rd time, a 4th, a 5th. Her jaw tightened, but her hand stayed steady. She could feel eyes on her, some curious, some amused, some bored. Up in the observation gallery, a young Thessari historian named Chiron held a recording device in trembling fingers. Council sessions were usually dull. Old species spoke, young species listened. Nothing changed. But today, Chiron felt something in the air, like thunder hiding behind a clear sky. Mara stopped pressing the button. Slowly, she reached into her coat and pulled out a small tablet. She tapped the screen twice. Then she lifted her head and spoke into the hall. Not loud, not angry, just clear. I invoke Procedural Clause 7, Section 14. The words cut through Dreven's speech like a blade. A ripple moved across the chamber. Some delegates shifted, others leaned forward. Chiron's stomach dropped as he realized what she had done. That clause was old, buried, rarely used. It guaranteed a member species the right to speak before any vote that threatened its sovereignty. Humans had insisted on adding it when they joined. The older powers had agreed because they thought it would never matter. Now it did. Silence fell, deep and heavy. High Speaker Yelthar stared down at her. For a long moment, the oldest being in the room said nothing. Then, slowly, he raised one thin hand. "Speak," he allowed. Mara stepped closer to the podium. Her face didn't show rage, but her eyes carried something worse than rage. They carried memory. And as Chiron held his breath, he realized with sudden fear, the humans weren't asking to be respected anymore. They were about to decide what came next. And when Mara finally began, she didn't start with threats. She started with a list the galaxy had never wanted to hear.
Mara didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. When humanity joined this assembly, she began, We were told the same thing again and again. Be patient, be humble, learn your place. A few delegates shifted uncomfortably. Some tried to look bored, but their eyes stayed locked on her. Mara tapped her tablet once, and the air above her podium filled with a soft blue projection. Simple, clean, impossible to ignore. "A question," she said. "Before you vote to put chains on our future, do you even remember what we've done for this galaxy?" Counselor Dreven gave a dry laugh that echoed too loudly in the quiet hall. "The humans have stories," he said. "They always do." The Velkari seats gave a small wave of amusement. Mara looked up at them, calm as deep water. "Yes," she replied, "we have stories. But today I brought records." She swiped the screen. A list appeared, and beside it, dates. Not dramatic words, not emotional speeches, just cold facts. "Item 1, Mara said. The Juno Plague, year 73 of Council Standard Time." Aori elders blinked slowly, like people hearing an old name they had hoped was buried. Mara continued. "When that plague hit the outer colonies, 3 species voted to quarantine the infected worlds and let them burn out." A quiet murmur spread. "The council called it necessary." Mara's voice tightened just slightly, like a thread being pulled. "Humans called it murder." She tapped again, and the projection shifted to a photo, a scorched medical ship, its hull patched with uneven repairs. "Our fleets were still small then, our tech was still behind yours, and still Earth sent hospital ships, volunteers, doctors who knew they might never come home." Chiron, in the gallery, swallowed hard. He'd studied the Juno Plague in school. The records always said the crisis ended because natural resistance was achieved. No one had mentioned human ships. Mara's eyes moved across the hall, daring someone to deny it. "We entered infected stations. We carried children out of sealed habitats. We burned our own clothes in airlocks and prayed our lungs would stay clear." She paused. "And when the plague ended, do you know what we received?" No one spoke. Mara answered anyway. "A formal warning for unauthorized interference and a fine for violating restricted space." A few delegates looked down. Others stared straight ahead like statues. Mara swiped again. "Item 3, she said, softer now. The Keth Drift Famine." Images changed. Thin bodies, empty storage bays, cracked hydroponic towers. The Cathari begged for grain cultures and water filters. The council debated for 8 months. Her voice stayed steady, but her face showed something raw underneath. Old anger, old sadness, carefully controlled. In month 9, Earth sent supplies anyway. We rerouted civilian freight. We emptied emergency stores. Our own cities rationed food. Dreven leaned forward, eyes narrowing. "Charity does not buy authority, Ambassador." Mara met his gaze. "You're right," she said. "Charity doesn't buy authority." Then she leaned closer to the microphone, and the whole hall seemed to lean with her. "But Mockery buys something else." The words landed like a warning bell. Mara swiped again, and a new heading appeared. Item 3, the Seren Ambush. A red symbol flashed, classified, then suddenly unlocked. Several older delegates stiffened. Mara's voice dropped to a near whisper. "You laughed at us for being weak, so you never noticed what we were learning while we stayed quiet." And when Mara opened Item 3, the projection revealed a battle the Council officially claimed never happened, until a human voice spoke from the recording and said, "This is Earth Rescue Command, and we're not leaving anyone behind."
The projection above Mara's podium shifted again. This time it wasn't a photo. It was raw footage, shaky, dark, and filled with static. A patrol route map glowed beside it. Seren Trade Corridor, Distress Event. Some delegates leaned back as if the light itself offended them. Others leaned forward, unable to stop their curiosity. High Speaker Yelthar's eyes narrowed. "That file is sealed," he said coldly. Mara didn't blink. "It was sealed," she corrected, "by the same hands that are trying to seal our future today." The footage began. A broken convoy drifted through space, its ships torn open like fruit. Small figures moved inside the wreckage, survivors. No shields, no escorts, just panic. Then the voice came through the speakers, crackling but unmistakable. "This is Earth Rescue Command. Repeat, Earth Rescue Command. Stay alive. We are inbound." A wave of tension rolled across the chamber. Chiron's fingers went numb around his recorder. He knew those words. Every species knew them. Humans said them in disasters like a ritual. And then, shapes emerged from the dark. Fast, quiet, wrong. Pirate craft. Seren raiders, the kind who didn't negotiate. They hunted with silence and struck with sudden fire. The surviving convoy tried to turn, but it was too late. A first ship exploded. A second ship cracked in half. Screams filled the audio, not dramatic screams, real ones, the kind that made the skin tighten and the stomach twist. Mara kept her gaze fixed forward, but her throat moved like she was swallowing something bitter. Then the footage jolted. A new sound cut through the chaos, sharp, rhythmic, almost like thunder. The camera swung, searching, and there they were, human ships. Not big, not fancy, not ancient, but they moved like they meant it. A line of compact vessels slammed into the battlefield and opened fire, not wildly, not proudly, but precisely, like hands that had practiced this in dark rooms for years. The Seren pirates turned toward the newcomers. They expected easy prey. They didn't get it. Human ships didn't chase. They didn't posture. They cut angles, protected the convoy, and kept pulling survivors toward a safe zone, like shepherds dragging lambs out of a burning field. One human pilot's voice came through the channel, strained, furious, and scared all at once. "Lock on me if you want. Just keep your guns off the civilians." A Seren pirate blast hit his ship. The camera caught it spinning, trailing flame. Chiron heard someone gasp in the hall. The pilot's voice returned, weaker now, but still stubborn. "I'm still here. Keep moving. Don't you dare stop." Mara's hands tightened on the podium. Her knuckles turned pale. Then another human voice, deeper, calmer, cut through the panic like steel sliding into place. "All units, rescue pattern. No hero runs. We get them out together." The human ships formed a tight circle, shielding the survivors. The pirates tried to break it. They couldn't. Finally, the pirates pulled back, angry, confused, bleeding. The screen froze on a final image, a human ship drifting, badly damaged, still positioned between the convoy and open space, like a body protecting someone smaller. Mara's voice returned to the hall, quiet but heavy. "Do you know how the council recorded this incident?" she asked. No one answered. Mara lifted her eyes, and there was pain in them now, real pain, not performance. "You wrote, 'Trade disruption resolved through local factors.'" A low murmur rose, uneasy. Mara let the silence sharpen. "That ship you just saw," she said, "carried 19 crew. Only 6 came home." She paused, and the pause felt like a funeral. "And when Earth requested a formal recognition, you told us to stop seeking attention." Dreven's jaw clenched. "This proves nothing," he snapped. "Bravery is not maturity." Mara nodded once, slowly. "You're right," she said. "Bravery isn't maturity." Then she tapped her tablet again. The projection changed to a new header,
Simple words that hit like ice. Item 4. The days we stopped asking permission. Mara's voice softened, but somehow became more dangerous. Because after Saren, she said, we realized something. She leaned closer, and the chamber seemed to shrink around her. We weren't being tested. We were being managed. And then Mara revealed the part the Council feared most. Not what humans did in that battle, but what they built afterward in secret for the day the galaxy finally pushed too far.
Mara let the new header hang in the air like a storm cloud. Item 4. The days we stopped asking permission. She took a slow breath. For the first time, her voice sounded tired. Not weak, but human. Like someone who had carried something heavy for too long. After Saren, she said, Earth held funerals you never attended. We sent letters you never answered. And we watched you erase 19 lives with one clean sentence. She looked up at the high platforms. That's when we stopped believing your smiles. A Awari Elder Seln lifted his chin. Are you admitting to illegal development? He asked, calm as ice. Mara nodded once. I'm admitting to survival. She tapped her tablet. The projection shifted to a schematic. Lines and symbols forming a shape that didn't match any known Council ship class. It wasn't massive, but it was different, dense, layered, built like it expected pain. We called it the Hearthline Program, a civilian label, a comforting name, because we wanted to believe it would never be used. Dreven's eyes narrowed. And what is it? Mara's mouth tightened. A promise. She swiped again. More images appeared. Quiet facilities carved into asteroids, shipyards hidden in shadowed orbits, training rooms filled with humans running drills in silence. We didn't build an empire, she said. We didn't try to dominate anyone. We built one thing. Her voice sharpened. We built a way to make sure nobody could ever erase us again. The chamber stirred like a disturbed nest. Chiron felt his heart hammer. This wasn't normal Council drama. This was a species pulling back a curtain. Mara pointed to a symbol on the projection, 3 small stars linked by a line. We expanded within our legal boundaries, she said. 2 systems, as you demanded, but inside those systems, we built deep. She turned her head slightly, as if speaking to someone who wasn't in the room, someone far away. We moved industries underground. We trained pilots in rotating shifts. We taught our children languages, diplomacy, and the hard truth that kindness without strength becomes a leash. Some delegates scoffed. Others looked worried. A few looked guilty. Mara's eyes flashed. You called our art primitive. You called our music noisy. You called our emotions unstable. She swallowed. But you still took our cargo. You still used our shipping lanes. You still asked our medics to patch your people up when your own systems failed. Dreven spread his hands. You want gratitude? The galaxy does not run on emotion, Ambassador. Mara's lips curved. Not a smile, more like a scar. Funny, she said softly, because the galaxy has been running on our emotion for years. Compassion, patience, forgiveness. She gestured to the projection again. These ships, she said, aren't weapons of conquest. They're shields, rescue craft, interceptors designed to stop raids before civilians die, medical bays that can handle plague outbreaks without waiting for Council approval. High Speaker Yelthar's voice cut in sharp. And you hid this? Mara nodded. Yes. The honesty hit harder than any excuse. We hid it because every time we asked for equal access, you laughed. Every time we requested partnership, you delayed. Every time we tried to stand taller, you reminded us we were new. She leaned forward, eyes bright now,
Not with tears, but with heat. So we got quiet. The room went still. Mara lowered her tablet. And today, she said, you want to pass a resolution that makes our quiet work illegal. She straightened her shoulders. No. One word, simple, final. And then Mara delivered the twist that made even the oldest species tense, because humanity hadn't built those defenses only for itself. It had built them for someone the Council had already decided to abandon.
Mara touched the screen again, and a new image filled the air. A small world. Not rich, not famous, not powerful. Just a planet with wide oceans and pale green continents. Around it floated a thin ring of stations, patched, mismatched, and clearly struggling to stay alive. The Rel, Mara said. The name moved through the chamber like an uncomfortable cough. Everyone knew the Rel, a gentle species from the outer rim, good farmers, good builders, not fighters. They had joined the assembly late, and they had trusted the promises. Then the pirates came. Then the border wars shifted. Then the older species got tired of spending resources on someone who couldn't pay back. Chiron had read about them too. The official record called it an unfortunate regional instability. Mara's voice tightened. When the Seren raiders began hitting Rel trade routes, the Rel asked for escorts. They begged for patrol support. They offered trade discounts, mineral rights, anything. She swiped. A transcript appeared. Trouncil meeting minutes, dry and cold. Request denied. Insufficient strategic value. Mara didn't shout. She didn't cry, but her eyes burned. You told them, she said. They lived too far out to justify protection. Some delegates shifted in their seats. The Iori elders stayed still, but their glow dimmed slightly, like they didn't like being reminded. Mara continued. The Rel didn't have warships. They didn't have alliances. They had families. They had children. They had hands that knew how to grow food and fix engines, not how to aim a gun. She turned toward the high platforms. And you left them. The room stayed silent, but it wasn't empty silence anymore. It was the kind that feels heavy because it knows it's guilty. Drevin scoffed. The Assembly cannot police every remote system. This is reality. Mara nodded once. Yes, it is reality. Then she pointed toward the projection of human shipyards and hidden stations. And we built our reality to be different. She tapped again. New footage appeared. A human convoy arriving at a battered Rel station. Not soldiers marching, just workers, engineers, doctors, cargo drones unloading crates. Chiron's throat went dry when he saw the labels on the crates. Water filters, medical kits, hull twaits, defense boys, non-lethal. The Rel on screen looked smaller than humans, soft-bodied, wide-eyed, moving with nervous hope. One of them reached out and touched the side of a human ship, like it couldn't believe it was real. Mara's voice softened. We didn't do it for votes, she said. We didn't do it for influence. Her mouth trembled for a half-second, then steadied. We did it because we remember what it feels like to be laughed at while you're bleeding. A low murmur rose again, some angry, some unsure, some afraid. High Speaker Yelthar's voice cut in. Are you claiming the Rel are under human protection? Mara met his gaze. I'm not claiming anything. I'm telling you what already happened. She swiped again, and the final image made the chamber freeze. A human ship drifting near the Rel orbit line, quiet, dark. On its hull, painted in simple white letters, were the words, "If you touch them, you answer to us." Mara's voice was calm, but it landed like a door slamming shut. You mock us, she said. You call us emotional, impulsive, dangerous. She looked around the room, letting her eyes meet as many faces as she could.
But when you abandoned the rel, we didn't see a strategic calculation. We saw a child being pushed into deep water, and we jumped in. Then Mara revealed the real reason the Council wanted new restrictions, because protecting the rel was only the beginning, and humanity had already made contact with something even the old powers feared.
Mara paused, letting the picture of the rel orbit hang above everyone like a warning sign. "You think this is about rules," she said quietly. "You think today is about safety." She tilted her head. "But the timing is too perfect, isn't it?" Counselor Dreven's eyes narrowed. "Explain yourself." Mara tapped her tablet again. The image changed from the rel world to a star chart, wide, cold space with one region highlighted in a deep gray color. A part of the galaxy most ships avoided, a part the Council spoke about only in careful whispers. "This," Mara said, "is the Black Reach." A shiver moved through the chamber. Even the loud delegates fell silent. Even the ones who usually laughed didn't. Chiron felt his stomach twist. He had heard stories about the Black Reach as a child. Systems where signals died, where ships disappeared, where navigation maps looked like someone had torn a hole through them. Officially, it was just unstable space. Unofficially, it was cursed. High Speaker Yelthar's voice came out tight. "That region is restricted." Mara nodded. "Yes, restricted, not explained, not studied openly, just avoided." She took a breath and her eyes hardened, and the rel were drifting toward it. A few delegates leaned forward. "What?" someone whispered. Mara pointed to the chart. "Pirate pressure, trade collapse, fuel shortages. The rel were being pushed out of safe lanes. Your reality was forcing them into the dark." Dreven snapped. "Then they should have relocated to approved zones." Mara's laugh was short and bitter. "With what ships? With what money? With what protection? You can't tell drowning people to swim to a better ocean." She tapped the screen again. A new file appeared. Unidentified transmission, rel space outer edge. Audio lines flickered like thin lightning. Mara's voice dropped. "We found this 2 months ago." The chamber grew so quiet that Chiron could hear the faint hum of the station's life systems. Mara played the recording. At first, it sounded like static, like a storm trapped inside a metal box. Then the pattern formed, a rhythm, a pulse, not random, not natural. Then a voice, translated by human systems into simple words, rough and imperfect, like someone learning to speak through broken glass. "We see you. We hear your fear. Why do you stand alone?" A wave of shock moved through the chamber. Several delegates lifted their hands in alarm. Aori elders dimmed even further, their glow turning pale. High Speaker Yelthar's tone sharpened. "Stop this. That is not verified. That could be a trap." Mara didn't stop the playback. She let it continue. "The old ones turn away. The small ones suffer. Who will answer?" The audio cut off. For a long moment, no one breathed. Then Dreven spoke, voice low and dangerous. "You made contact with it." Mara looked at him with tired honesty. "We didn't go hunting," she said. "We were running supplies to the rel. We were escorting children off a station that had been hit twice in 1 week." Her fingers curled around the edge of the podium. And then the dark spoke. Chiron's hands shook. He saw fear on faces that never showed fear. The old powers weren't shocked because humans had found a new species. They were shocked because the humans had awakened something the Council had been pretending didn't exist. Mara exhaled. "And now," she said softly, "you want to restrict our ships, limit our systems, ban our defenses." She tilted her head. "Why?" Her eyes narrowed like a spotlight. "Because you're afraid we might answer that signal." And then Mara revealed the most terrifying part. Humanity
didn't just hear the black reach, it answered back, and the reply was already on its way.
Mara stood very still, as if any sudden movement might break the room. "Yes," she said. "We answered." The chamber erupted in whispers. Translators layered the sound into a strange chorus: fear, anger, disbelief. High Speaker Yelthar struck his staff against the platform rail. The sound was sharp enough to slice the noise in half. "Ambassador Voss," he said, voice like old metal, "you had no authority to respond to an unknown force from a restricted zone." Mara looked up at him. Her expression wasn't rebellious, it was exhausted. "We asked for authority for 11 years," she said. "We asked for equal rights, equal protection, equal concern. You gave us delays and smiles." Her voice tightened, but it didn't break. "So when the dark spoke to a frightened people you abandoned, we didn't ask permission to be decent." Drevin leaned forward, eyes cold. "What exactly did you send?" Mara tapped her tablet. A new file opened, simple text, no secrets hidden in it. "Human response, sent to unidentified source." Mara read it aloud, word for word. "We are humanity. We do not know who you are. We do not know your intentions, but we heard your question." She swallowed once, and her voice softened. "The small ones are not alone." She looked around the hall, letting the words touch every seat. "If you come in peace, we will speak. If you come in hunger, we will resist. If you come to punish the weak, then you will meet us first." A ripple ran through the older delegates. Some looked offended, like a servant had spoken out of turn. Others looked afraid, like they had just seen a knife they didn't know was in the room. High Speaker Yelthar's glow turned hard. "You threatened an unknown entity." Mara shook her head. "No," she said quietly. "We drew a boundary." She exhaled through her nose, and for a heartbeat, Chiron could see the weight in her face. Countless funerals, countless letters, countless meetings where humans were treated like children. "We didn't invite war," she said. "We invited honesty." Then she swiped again. A timestamp appeared. Reply received 17 hours later. The chamber stilled. Mara played the audio. This time the static was lighter, like the signal had learned how to breathe. "Boundaries are language. You speak clearly. The old ones speak in silence." Mara's eyes flashed with something sharp and sad. "We approach, not to eat, not to bow, to see who stands when it is hard." The message ended. Silence fell so deep it felt like space itself had pressed against the windows. Chiron's chest tightened. That wasn't a pirate signal. It wasn't a random anomaly. It sounded like a civilization judging them. Drevin's hands gripped his armrests. "This is exactly why the doctrine is needed," he hissed. "You have endangered everyone." Mara turned toward him slowly. "Endangered?" she repeated. Her voice stayed calm, but her eyes brightened. Wet with anger, she refused to spill. "You endangered everyone the moment you taught the galaxy that power decides who deserves protection." She leaned closer to her mic. "The Black Reach didn't speak because humans are reckless. It spoke because it saw what you did to the weak, and it asked who would answer." Mara straightened. "And now it's coming to look." Then Mara dropped the detail that made the room go cold, because the approaching signal wasn't headed to Earth. It was headed straight for Orion's cradle, where the Council sat, unprotected. Mara didn't rush. She let the fear settle into the hall like dust after an explosion. "They are not coming to Earth," she said. A few delegates blinked as if they hadn't understood. Then the words sank in. Drevin's mouth opened slightly. "Explain."
Mara capped her tablet and expanded the star chart. A glowing path appeared, an estimated trajectory based on signal delay, gravitational pulls, and faint distortions at the edge of the black reach. The line did not point toward human space. It pointed toward the center of assembly control, toward Orion's cradle, toward the council itself. High Speaker Yelthar's hand tightened around his staff. "Impossible," he said, but there was no confidence in it. Mara's voice stayed steady. "We tracked the distortion," she said. "Not with council instruments, with human ones. Quiet systems you never bothered to ask about." She paused just long enough to make it sting. "They're following the loudest light in this region." She gestured upward at the massive platforms, the shining banners, the heavy security fields that protected the old powers. "This station is a beacon," Mara said, "and the signal is curious." Chiron's pulse hammered. In the gallery, he watched the older delegates exchange glances. They weren't thinking about treaties or morality now. They were thinking about survival. Drevin stood halfway, voice tense. "If a hostile force is inbound, the Assembly must unite under experienced leadership. We must limit junior species from provoking it further." Mara turned to him. "You still think you can manage this by controlling us," she said. She lifted her chin. "But your control is the reason we're here." The hall stirred again, some with anger, some with fear, some with something like shame. Mara swiped again. A schematic of Orion's cradle appeared. Defense rings, patrol grids, response times. Red marks blinked along the edges. "Your defenses are designed for known threats, pirates, border skirmishes, predictable wars." She looked around, letting the truth land like a hard coin. "You have no plan for something that doesn't care about your status." High Speaker Yelthar's voice lowered. "And you do?" Mara didn't claim heroism. She simply nodded. "We do," she said, "because we had to." She tapped once more. A new file opened. Hearthline Response Package, Orion's Cradle. The projection showed human ships, sleek, compact, dense with layered shielding, drones, rescue pods, interceptor patterns. Not an invasion fleet, a crisis fleet. "We quietly positioned support groups within permitted travel limits," Mara said. "We trained for mass evacuation, for medical overflow, for civilian shielding." Drevin's eyes widened. "You placed military assets near the Assembly without authorization?" Mara's gaze didn't move. "They are not here to threaten you," she said. "They are here to protect what you built, even when you treated us like a child at the table." The irony stung the room into silence. Mara's voice softened. "We didn't want Orion's cradle to fall, because even if you were cruel, this place still holds the idea that the galaxy can talk instead of burn." Her eyes glistened, but she did not let tears fall. "So yes," she said, "we prepared." Then she leaned in, and her voice sharpened again. "But here is the twist you are not ready to accept." She pointed toward the old powers platforms. "If they arrive and ask who stands for the weak, your titles won't answer that question." She pointed to humanity's small platform at the bottom. "Our actions will." And then the Council received an emergency alert because the first unknown vessel had already crossed into local space, and it wasn't slowing down.
The emergency tone hit the chamber like a slap. A sharp, repeating pulse. Too fast, too urgent. The kind that meant one thing. Something had entered local space. Above the council floor, the massive holographic ceiling changed from calm starfield display to red warning overlays. Lines of text scrolled in multiple languages, all translating to the same frightening message. Unidentified mass detected. Outer perimeter. A few delegates stood up. Others froze. The oldest powers remained seated, But their stillness wasn't confidence anymore. It was shock, wrapped in pride. High Speaker Yelthar raised his staff again. "Security Director," he called. A voice answered over the hall speakers, tight, clipped, panicked but trying to sound professional. "Contact confirmed, High Speaker. Unknown vessel or structure. No standard drive signature. No known hull pattern. It appeared inside the outer sensor net for approximately 3 seconds, then—" "Then what?" Yelthar snapped. A pause. The kind of pause that means the person speaking wishes they weren't speaking. "Then it moved," the director said, "without acceleration curve. It repositioned." A wave of fear traveled across the chamber. Species that had ruled sectors for centuries suddenly looked like nervous animals. Dreven's face hardened. "This is what the humans invited," he said loudly, pointing down at Mara. "They provoked it with reckless words." Mara didn't flinch. She pressed her tablet, and a quiet human symbol appeared on the main display, an icon of a small ship. A second later, another voice entered the speakers, calm and clear, not official council tone, human tone. "Orion Control, this is Hearthline Unit Echo," the voice said. "We're in position." Chiron felt his breath catch. He looked around and saw the same reaction in others, surprise mixed with something they didn't want to admit. Relief. Human ships were here already, not cheering, not bragging, just ready. Mara spoke softly into her microphone. "This is why we prepared." High Speaker Yelthar glared at her. "You will not take command of this station." Mara didn't ask for command. She only said, "Then don't, but let us help." Another alert flashed. "Object now within inner perimeter." The hall erupted in chaos. Some delegates shouted for evacuation. Some demanded shields. Some called their fleets. Some simply stared upward like prey watching a predator circle. Chiron's recorder nearly slipped from his hands. Then the hologram shifted, zooming in on the sensor image. It wasn't a ship in the normal sense. It was too smooth, too dark. It didn't reflect light the way metal should. It looked like a piece of night torn out of the universe and shaped into a slow-moving spearhead. No windows, no weapons visible, just presence. The security director's voice trembled. "It is enormous." Mara's eyes stayed fixed on the display. Dreven hissed, "Destroy it before it reaches the station." Iori Elder Seln finally spoke, voice calm but sharp. "Fire, and you may invite annihilation." Dreven snapped, "Then we are helpless." Mara raised her hand slightly, not to silence them, to anchor the moment. "We are not helpless," she said. Her tone was gentle, but it cut through the noise. "That thing didn't arrive screaming. It didn't attack immediately. It crossed space in a way that suggests control." She looked at the elders. "It came to see." High Speaker Yelthar's voice was low. "To see what?" Mara didn't answer right away. Instead, she tapped her tablet again. A new transmission appeared. This one live, pulsing, building. The systems began translating automatically. Words formed on the screen, one by one, like someone writing with a steady hand. "We are here. Who speaks for the small? Who hides behind age?" The hall went silent as death. Chiron felt tears sting his eyes, not from fear alone, but from the weight of the question. Because everyone in that chamber knew the truth. The galaxy had been strong, but it had not been kind. And then, to everyone's shock, the unknown vessel didn't address the High Speaker. It locked directly onto the human platform and said, "You, Earthchild, answer." The words appeared on the main display, clean and bright against the red warnings. "You, Earthchild, answer." Every head turned, downward, toward the smallest platform, toward Mara. A few delegates looked offended, like the universe had broken etiquette. Others looked frightened, like they had just seen the real power in the room choose its target. High Speaker Yelthar's voice came out tight. "This is an assembly matter," he said sharply, as if that sentence could control the unknown.
The dark vessel didn't respond to him. It waited. Mara took a slow breath. Her hands were steady, but her eyes looked older than they had an hour ago, like the galaxy's weight had finally stepped onto her shoulders. She leaned toward her microphone. "This is Ambassador Mara Voss of Earth," she said. "I am listening." For the first time, the vessel spoke in a way that sounded almost gentle, still rough, still strange, but clearer than before. "We watched. We listened. We saw how you were treated." A ripple of discomfort ran through the older species. Some shifted like children caught doing something cruel. Mara didn't look away. The voice continued. "The old ones built a chair of light. The young ones were given shadow. Why did you stay?" Mara swallowed. She could have answered with politics. She could have talked about treaties, trade, and stability. Instead, she spoke from the place that was still warm inside her. "Because leaving would have made us like you," she said, and the words were soft but sharp. A few gasps sounded, some angry, some shocked. Mara continued, "Because we believed the galaxy could be better than its habits." The vessel paused. Then another question formed on the screen. "Why do you defend those who mock you?" Mara closed her eyes for a brief second. When she opened them, they were wet, but her voice didn't shake. "I know what pain does," she said. "It teaches you two choices." She lifted her chin. "You can become the hand that hits, or you can become the hand that lifts." Chiron's chest tightened. He didn't understand why he felt emotional, but he did. The human wasn't speaking like a politician anymore. She was speaking like a parent protecting a child. The vessel's voice shifted, deeper now, heavier. "We have seen many. The strong take, the old control, the kind die first." The screen flashed again. "We do not trust kindness alone." Drevin stood suddenly. "This is madness," he snapped. "High Speaker, order the humans to cease communication." The vessel turned its attention just slightly, not physically. The air itself seemed to tighten, like pressure changing. Drevin's console sparked. His translator chirped, then went silent. All around him, the Valkyrie devices flickered, not destroyed, just muted. Drevin froze, fear finally cracking through his pride. Mara's eyes widened for a half heartbeat. Then she understood what had happened. They weren't attacking. They were removing noise. High Speaker Yelthar's voice sounded smaller. "What are you?" he demanded. The vessel ignored him again. And in that moment, the assembly felt something it had never felt before. Not war, not diplomacy. Judgment. The screen formed new words. "Earthchild, show us your line. Where will you stand when we test this room?" Mara inhaled slowly. She didn't look up at the shining platforms this time. She looked toward the exits, toward the lower seats, toward the species that had no loud voices, and she made a decision. "We will stand between you and them," she said. Her words were simple, but they changed the air. And then the unknown vessel issued its test, not by firing a weapon, but by opening a doorway in the chamber itself, and something stepped through that made every species remember fear.
At first, nothing happened. The dark vessel hung outside the station like a silent question mark, and the council hall stayed frozen in that terrible moment where everyone waits for the next breath. Then the air in the center of the chamber began to bend, not like heat, not like wind, like space itself was being folded, carefully, smoothly, as if someone had taken the universe and pinched it between two fingers. A circle of darkness opened above the main floor. A doorway. No alarms screamed this time. No shields flared. The station's systems didn't even understand what they were seeing. Chiron felt his skin go cold. He couldn't look away. From the doorway, a shape stepped out. It was not a monster, not a swarm, not teeth and claws like the stories. It was a figure, tall, draped in material that looked like night with small stars trapped inside it. Its head was smooth, without clear eyes, but Chiron still felt watched, deeply, personally. The figure stood perfectly still, as if waiting for the room to decide what it was. Panic began to rise in the council like water in a sealed room. Some delegates backed away, some reached for personal shields, some called for guards that suddenly felt very, very small. Drevin stumbled toward his platform controls, trying to regain his translator. "Security!" he yelled, his voice now raw. Aori Elder Seln's glow brightened with anger. "Fire, and you may doom us all," he warned. The figure didn't move. It didn't threaten. It simply existed, an impossible calm inside a room full of fear. Then the main display lit again with text. "We will not strike first. We will not beg. We will watch what you choose." Mara stepped forward. Not fast, not dramatic, just one clear movement, like someone walking into cold rain without an umbrella. "Stop!" High Speaker Yelthar snapped. "Ambassador, do not approach an unknown—" Mara didn't stop. She walked past the edge of humanity's small platform and onto the central floor, the place younger species rarely entered unless invited. Chiron's heart pounded so hard it hurt. Mara looked at the figure. She didn't bow, she didn't glare. She spoke like a person speaking to another person. "You said you would test this room. What is the test?" The figure tilted its head, just slightly, and then, without moving its mouth, a voice filled the air, not through speakers, not through translators, inside their minds. Clear, soft, heavy. "The test is simple. We will take one. The room will show us if it values power or life." A wave of fear rolled through the hall. "We will take one." Mara's chest rose and fell slowly. "Who?" she asked. The figure's head turned, not toward the High Speaker, not toward the elders, not toward the highest platforms. It turned toward the lower seats, toward a small delegate species, one of the tiniest in the room, the Rel representative. He was standing now, trembling so badly his hands shook. His eyes were wide, helpless like a child in a spotlight. Chiron felt sick. The figure took one step forward, and that's when the room revealed itself. Some species stayed still, afraid to provoke anything. Some leaned away, quietly relieved it wasn't them. Some looked to the old powers, waiting for orders that didn't come. High Speaker Yelthar didn't move. Drevin didn't move. No one moved. Except Mara. She stepped in front of the Rel representative, putting her body between him and the unknown figure. Her voice didn't rise, but it carried. "No," she said. One word again. Simple. Final. The figure stopped. The hall shook with silence. Mara's hands were open at her sides. No weapons, no tricks, just a human standing in the path. "You want to judge us?" she said, voice tight with emotion. "Then judge this." She looked around at the council seats, eyes wet now, no longer hiding it. "You've treated us like children. You've laughed at our feelings. You've tried to limit us because you fear what we might become." She swallowed hard. "But this is who we already are." Her voice broke slightly, then steadied. "We don't let you take the small ones." And then the unknown figure asked the question that would decide everything, because it offered the council a choice: sacrifice Mara, or finally protect someone they had always ignored.
The chamber stayed frozen. Mara stood in front of the Rel representative like a wall made of breath and bones. Her shoulders were squared, but her eyes were shining now, tears held back by sheer will. The unknown figure didn't move closer. Instead, the air hummed, and the same mind voice returned, soft, heavy, impossible to ignore. Earthchild stands. The room does not. Now the room may choose. Words appeared on the main display, slow and clear. We will leave if you protect the small. We will stay if you offer the Earthchild. Show us what you are. Chiron's throat tightened. It wasn't a weapon test. It was a moral test. The Galaxy Council, with all its shining platforms and ancient titles, had been given the simplest choice in existence: protect the weak or sacrifice the one who dared to. High Speaker Yelthar's hands shook slightly on his staff. He looked down at the hall like a king staring at a problem he couldn't order away. Dreven's face hardened, but fear trembled under his anger. "This is coercion," he spat. "We cannot allow a junior species to drag us into—" The unknown figure's attention shifted, and Dreven's words died in his throat like someone had turned off his voice. His mouth moved, but no sound came. The room understood the message. No more excuses. Mara didn't beg. She didn't plead for her own life. Instead, she spoke gently to the rail representative behind her. "Stay close. Whatever happens, don't run." The rail's eyes filled with tears. He nodded, trembling. Then Mara looked up at the high platforms again. "You want to vote on human limits?" she called. Her voice was broken with emotion, but still strong. "Vote now." The words hit like a slap because they were true. This was the real vote, not the paper doctrine, not the polite procedure. A hush spread across the chamber as delegates, old and young, realized what they were being asked to do in front of something that could see through their lies. One by one, the smaller species began to stand. Not just the Rel. The Cathari delegate rose, face tight with old hunger memories. A fragile mining species from the outer belt stood, hands shaking. A trade coalition that had been mocked for generations stood, eyes hard with quiet anger. They moved slowly, like people waking up from a long sleep. Then something unexpected happened. A mid-level power, one that usually followed the elders, rose too. Then another, then another. The hall began to change shape, not physically, but spiritually, like a room deciding to become something new. High Speaker Yelthar stared down at the growing line of standing delegates. And finally, after a long moment, he did something the Assembly had not seen in centuries. He stepped down from his platform. The old being moved slowly, but with purpose, descending toward the council floor, toward Mara, toward the rail representative. When he reached the ground level, he stopped beside Mara. He did not look at the unknown figure first. He looked at Mara. His voice was quiet. "You forced us to see ourselves," he said. Mara's eyes closed for one brief second. Then Yelthar turned to the unknown figure and lifted his staff, not as a weapon, but as a symbol. "We do not offer her," he said, each word heavy. "And we do not offer the small." He glanced up at the shining platforms behind him, like they suddenly disgusted him. "We will change." Dreven's eyes widened in disbelief. The unknown figure stood perfectly still. The room held its breath. Then the mind voice returned, softer now, less like judgment, more like acceptance. "Good. We do not want thrones. We want witnesses. The galaxy may still grow." The dark doorway began to fold inward, like a closing eye. The unknown figure took one step back into it. Before it vanished, one last message formed on the screen. "Earthchild,
You spoke clearly. Do not become what hurt you. Mara's lips trembled. A tear finally fell, not from fear, but from relief, from pain, from years of holding everything in. I won't, she whispered. The doorway closed. Outside, the dark vessel flickered once and was gone. For several seconds, no one moved, no one spoke. Then the alarm stopped. And in that quiet, the assembly felt something new. Shame, yes, but also possibility. High Speaker Yeltharb returned to his platform later, but he did not sit the same way. When the vote finally came, the doctrine died before it reached the floor. Not because humans threatened war, because the galaxy, for the first time, chose mercy over pride. Mara returned to her small platform at the bottom. It was still small, but it no longer felt like shadow. Chiron lowered his recorder with shaking hands, knowing he had just captured the moment the galaxy changed its story. And far beyond the mapped stars, in the place everyone feared to look, something ancient listened and decided to wait, because it had finally seen one species stand up and say no. The council thought the day ended with peace, but Mara's tablet still held one unread file, because the Black Reach hadn't sent a warning, it had sent an invitation. May this message strengthen your faith and renew your hope. Thank you for staying until the end. If this touched your heart, like, share, and subscribe to Astro Realms for more uplifting content. May God's blessings overflow in your life. See you soon.